herself.
And Meghan herself.
In the months before she met Harry, was setting up paparazzi pictures in London. She now acts as if the paparazzi are literally the devil incarnate.
She begged the paparazzi to photograph her, and they wouldn't. And when they did, she says, "Oh, I don't want to, I'm hurt." And that ridiculous story about how they first met, the whole thing was a tissue of inaccuracies, to be polite.
Well, because what do you make of that? Because as you know, Harry was always very insistent.
I choose people who don't want to be written about on the whole, whose lives are shrouded in mystery, and they want to hide their secrets. And I just love digging away to find out what they don't want.
Tom Bower, the legendary royal author, is sharpening his quill for a new edition of his book set to reveal huge secrets inside Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's marriage.
What they need to do is face up to the blackmail that's coming from California and in some way or other undermine Harry's and Meghan's credibility.
Meghan is a consummate survival actress. And you raise this extraordinary beginning of the year when she carved 2025 in the sand. And you know, it's a very, very interesting image that it came out on New Year's Day this year, because the previous weeks had been absolutely turgid and torrid for her. She had been dubbed Duchess Difficult again. There have been allegations of bullying.
Tyrant in high heels.
Do you think Harry and Meghan are fast learning what they signed away when they took this Netflix big moolah? And I would say they signed away their credibility and their dignity.
Well, that's our view, but it's not theirs. They need the money, and they need it now more than ever because they've got no other source of income. So I think they're just stuck with the devil now. They're tied to Netflix, they're tied to their book, and all the criticism they're going to take means nothing because that's the only way they can earn their money.
Tom Bower, the longtime royal biographer, is preparing a new edition that promises to pry open what's really happening behind the palace curtain version of Harry and Meghan's marriage.
Even the publishers couldn't quite believe some of the things which I discovered. And one of the big things at that time was sensitivity reading. There was a great fear that she would play the race card.
Secrets, tensions, and the kind of details nobody wants printed in black and white. 2 days before the world even knew Lilibet existed, someone had already locked down Lily Comic. The Queen hadn't been told the baby's name, yet the digital real estate was already secured, positioned for business. It's a small detail that raises a big question. Was this family moment treated like a branding opportunity from the start?
That's the thing about Meghan. She's a very, very deceitful person.
Bower didn't stumble into these claims. He built them the hard way. 2 years of digging, dozens of interviews, and sources so nervous they wouldn't attach their names. Some discoveries were so explosive they alarmed even the publishers. And in the background, a bigger truth emerges. Not everything he found could safely be printed. And here's the unsettling part. What made it into the book is damaging. What couldn't be published might be even worse. The Lilibet story is where this gets razor sharp. June 2021.
Aggressive PR for the Sussexes got way beyond herself because she really doesn't understand the British royal family or Britain, but understands how to project her clients. And so I think she got it wrong by leaking it or even letting anyone know.
Harry calls the Queen and tells her they've named the baby after her personal nickname, the name Prince Philip used for decades. But the controversy wasn't the name itself. It was the order of events. It sounded less like a request and more like a decision already made. When reports surfaced that permission hadn't been granted, the response wasn't clarity. It was legal pressure. But if the blessing was real, one simple palace confirmation would have ended the story instantly. Instead,
And Harry is able, in my view, to really damage Charles by releasing more information or inventions and lies.
the silence let the doubt grow. Meanwhile, that domain sat ready, registered before the family conversation even happened. And that's what makes the timing feel so off. Harry wasn't raised to think in terms of commercial infrastructure. He came from a world where branding a royal baby's name would never even be a thought. But Meghan's world works differently. She'd been building a personal brand for years, carefully, deliberately, like someone who sees life in assets and leverage. A royal baby's name, especially one tied to the Queen's private identity, isn't just sentimental, it's valuable.
William wouldn't allow it. And secondly, the moment he got back to America, he immediately promoted Disney and his trip to Disney World, which showed that he is very commercially minded, which we'll get into later on, which makes it impossible for him.
It can power merchandising, media framing, deals, and an entire ecosystem built around recognition. So, the sequence becomes the story. Business secured first, family informed second. Whatever you believe about intentions, the priorities look unmistakable. This is what Bauer couldn't fully publish. The life Meghan lived before Harry. Allegations swirl around exclusive yacht party circles and elite access networks. Claims that under UK privacy law are perilous to print without courtroom-level proof. But the whispers all point to the same pattern.
South Park cartoon, you know, when they on their worldwide privacy tour, and you see this shot where they slice off the head of Meghan's head and look inside and it's empty.
Hollow.
And that is exactly the issue.
A world of quiet power, wealthy gates, and carefully curated connections. Here's what makes that era matter: the pattern. When relationships stopped serving a purpose, they were cut clean. Friends disappeared. A previous life was erased like it never existed. And by the time the Duchess narrative arrived, the earlier chapters were either sealed by silence or sealed by legal threat.
You know, Piers, you're the first person to say how limited Prince Harry is, unfortunately, and how his wife trades off her husband's fame and fortune, or not so great fortune now. I mean, this is the problem, but we're still interested because, after all, he's a great character in our modern...
October 2018. Meghan steps into Australia dripping in Diana's jewelry. Not subtle tributes, but headline-making statement pieces. And from that moment, a message begins to take shape. She isn't just joining the story, she's stepping into a role.
I don't believe she ever intended to stay. She always intended to take the title, take the connections and get back to California.
Diana's legacy wasn't built through accessories. It was built through years of public courage and private compassion. She earned trust by showing up when there was no glamorous payoff. And that's the trap Bauer argues Meghan falls into, mistaking the visual connection for the emotional one, as if wearing the symbols could transfer the meaning.
And who she abandoned for months to the media, and now presents her mother, Doria, speaking for the first time, telling outright lies about her ex-husband. I mean, this was a calculated attempt against the fact.
What Meghan never fully grasped is that the applause wasn't for Meghan Markle the individual. It was for the institution she represented. The crown, the tradition, the history. But if you confuse being cheered as a symbol with being loved as yourself, you start chasing the wrong proof and building your identity on borrowed mythology. Winter 2017, Sandringham. The jokes, the confrontation, the label, fun police. But the real shift came after. One by one, Harry's friendships collapsed. Not slowly, not naturally, systematically. And when a new relationship demands you sever every tie to your former life, that isn't protection. It's isolation dressed up as loyalty.
Meghan seems like she could be on the Sarah Ferguson path.
You mean downhill?
Downhill is exactly
right.
right.
Going downhill. So I mean, there's an appalling narcissism there, an appalling self-interest. It's self-love.
Fast forward. Harry is in California, disconnected from the people who anchored him in London. No old inner circle, no long-standing support system. Just the world he's been guided into, and the connections that pass approval. And that's what makes Bauer's framing feel so pointed. This isn't new behavior. The same clean break strategy appears again and again. Family cut off, relationships ended, friends dropped.
In Meghan's mind, she is Diana.
Yes.
I mean, Diana Spencer is Meghan Spencer. And that was all part of her imagination that somehow she could inherit the glow of her dead mother.
Harry doesn't look like an exception. He looks like the latest person absorbed into the pattern. Start with the storybook moment from the Oprah interview, the private backyard wedding before the public ceremony. It plays like romance until it collides with verification. Once officials contradicted it, The framing shifted from sweet anecdote to something sharper. A narrative designed to recast the public wedding as theater and the private version as the real truth.
I don't think I think, however, that if he did a program about his mother, that would be for money.
Yes.
And I think it would be a shocking act of further disloyalty.
Then comes the larger argument. The interview's timeline and implications were built in a way that guided the audience towards specific conclusions. If multiple major claims don't hold up under scrutiny, the impact isn't just gossip, it's global perception engineering. 50 million people didn't just watch a conversation, they absorbed a storyline. From Bauer's perspective, Meghan isn't simply telling her side. She's constructing a victim narrative that collapses when tested against dates, records, and corroboration.
What Meghan never really understood, probably not even now, is that when she was cheered as a working royal, it wasn't because she was Meghan Markle, it was because she represented British royalty and all the values of the Queen and all the tradition and 1,000 years of history. So people were cheering not just the person, but also...
And because it was broadcast at scale, the story became reality for millions, whether or not it was true. Hollywood distance isn't always about scandal, it's about risk management. People with global brands and palace-adjacent relationships don't gamble that access for a partnership that looks unstable. Being too close to Harry and Meghan now comes with a cost, and the industry can do that math in seconds. Last year, she skipped an event to avoid looking cheap. This year, she showed up because staying visible becomes survival when influence is slipping.
I do think that when you're mocked so publicly as they've been, their value begins to nosedive pretty quickly. And I don't think they're finding any more sources of income.
And that's the undercurrent Bauer keeps pointing to. Relevance is no longer guaranteed. So every appearance starts to feel like a fight to remain in the room. The harsh reality is legal. UK privacy law can crush a publisher, even if multiple people repeat the same allegation, unless it's bulletproof in court. So the book contains only what can survive scrutiny. But Bauer hints there's far more sitting in research files. Another entire narrative that can't yet be safely printed.
Dim-witted Duke is in diplomatic hot water with the despotic regime of Iran using his Taliban kill count revelation to help justify the execution of a detained British Iranian.
A domain registered before telling the Queen. A past scrubbed to protect the present. Friends removed. Professional bridges burned. When you stack the details, they stop looking like isolated controversies and start reading like a repeatable method. Someone who calculates every move while insisting it's all organic.
I do think that Sussex Overdrive is unbelievable, but I mean, I don't think that he is going to get back in. I mean, I think that there are two reasons. One is I think that William wouldn't allow it. And secondly, the moment he got back to America, he immediately promoted Disney and his trip to Disney World, which showed that he is very commercially minded, which we'll get into later on, which makes it impossible for him. And of course, Meghan wouldn't come back to Britain.
Someone who sells a performance as authenticity. Someone who reshapes perception first and lets the facts chase behind. Someone who bends reality into sympathy. And now, with Revenge 2 coming, Bauer is signaling the next wave will be the material he couldn't safely publish the first time, pushed back into the spotlight.